Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 5, day 1. We're going to finish off ethics today, and
I don't have school.
I'm happy to announce my daughter has school. No school today, so she is going to be joining us for critical thinking.
Hi, I'm the new student.
She asked me yesterday. We were talking about Viking shield maidens and if they were real or not, because there's been a number of graves dug up where it's a woman buried with a sword, and so a lot of people
It's
got.
probably just like a tradition.
Could be. A lot of people got really excited and said, look, here's proof that the Viking shield maidens were real. We do know from the sagas that they probably did exist, but a good question is like, what percentage? How common were they? Was it regional? We know that Germanic tribes often had fighting women. But, when you find a grave and it turns out to be a woman's skeleton buried with a sword, does that mean that she was a fighter? And so Ada started asking some really good questions that I think apply for critical thinking. One was, well, how do you know that the science is correct, right? So
No. It didn't. It's like maybe like that new. I've been stuck in quarantine for so long that I've forgotten childhood songs and stuff.
Yeah.
And okay, satellite. That giant satellite in the sky is like. How do you know if it's telling you good information? How do you know that? Where's the proof that that information, that so-called information that's sent from that satellite up there down to our computers is telling the truth?
that's the whole point of this class, girl. So
Well, it seems like not a very good use for a class because there's no answer.
we were reading a Wikipedia page on Viking shield women, and I showed her, like, you can click on the references. That's kind of how, like, if we don't believe Wikipedia, then we click on the references and see if the references back it up, and then we can dig into the references behind the references and things like that, and eventually, ultimately, we can get down to the bedrock, which is we can actually look at the scientific evidence that has been preserved. Of course, that all of that could be lies. Ultimately, all of science relies on the fact that the observations are not being misreported, right? Like, somebody could have, taken a woman's skeleton and switched it out and put a sword in her hand or something, right? Like, at a certain level, you just can't get away from the fact that you're trusting somebody that the observation is correct. In cases of, like, the Large Hadron Collider in CERN, like, there's thousands of people working on it. The odds that all 1,000 are lying to you maybe are pretty remote, right? But this ties into, like, vaccine skepticism and things like that too, where a lot of people, or big pharma, like some of those conspiracy theories where people think that there's this worldwide conspiracy in various ways. We might do a fun exercise on conspiracy theories.
Okay, let's start it right now.
All right, no, but no, it was a really good question, and the question is, like, how do you know if what you are reading on the internet is real?
No. It's not like people telling lies. It's like the computer.
The computer could be wrong. Computer could be giving you wrong information too. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and so like that's like what this class is about. So, all right, girl. All right. So we need to go over one more ethical theory for today, and that's going to be virtue ethics. We do have a guest speaker coming in next class.
It's me.
It's not you, it's Uncle Scott. And he's going to talk about housing issues, the housing crisis in the Bay Area. And when he does so, I want you to think about it from the perspective of the major ethical theories, right? So there's, divine command theory, utilitarianism, deontology of virtue ethics, and natural rights theory. And I want you to just pick one of them, and then that's going to be your next discussion is going to be given this social issue in computer science, because the tech industry is, it feeds into the whole housing crisis in the Bay Area. You got problems with homelessness, you have people with, living out of RVs and things like that. So when he talks about it, I want you to think about it pick one of these perspectives. You don't have to do all of them, but just pick one of them and think about the problem from that perspective. Like, if you pick divine command theory, then we're called upon, and you're a Christian, then we're called upon to help the poor, right?
Are you gonna do something fun with them because it's Valentine's Day?
No, we're doing nothing for Valentine's Day today, girl. Sorry. There's a pink unicorn behind me. How about that? Okay.
That's nothing fun. It's just a unicorn.
No, we're doing absolutely nothing fun for today. So
What?
you're the fun girl. You're the fun. Okay. So all right, enough. Ada. So or you can look at the housing crisis from the lens of utilitarianism, right? What approach could we have to solving the problem would have the greatest good for the greatest number of people? Okay, seems like a fairly straightforward observation. New NFT concept there. Deontology, what sort of duties do we have? Use the categorical imperative. Do we have an obligation to build houses, for example? Do we have an obligation to house the homeless? Do we have an obligation to make a parking lot for the people that are living in RV housing, things like that? Virtue ethics is what we're talking about today. And the natural rights theory would be something like, does somebody have a positive right? Is a big question for this, right? Because one of the big splits, like I said last time, between the left and the right wing is that the left wing believes in positive natural rights, such as the right to a house, the right to a job, the right to health care. And the right generally doesn't. They believe you have negative rights. You have the right freedom from interference from the government, freedom of your life, which means freedom from murder, freedom from things, not freedom to things, right? And that's a very broad generalization, and not all, obviously, left-wing and right-wing people are all one and all the other. It's, there's a lot of individual variance there. But that's kind of, if you want one dividing line between the left and the right wing in America, it's whether or not we have positive rights, freedom to work, freedom to a house, versus freedom from government censorship, freedom from having your stuff stolen. So we're going to talk about virtue ethics today. But that was a brief review of the the four systems we've covered so far. Okay, so virtue ethics. Virtue ethics is not worried about outcomes or duty, right? Because that's kind of the two big things that we've talked about. So far as does the outcome of an action make it good or bad, or does the intent of an action make it good or bad? Virtue ethics rather focuses on the individual and individual character. So the notion is, okay, Ada, enough. You're distracting the students. Nobody's talking on chat because they're too engrossed in your unicorn antics. She's snickering. So virtue ethics is about cultivating individual character. Okay, so basically, virtues are things that are desirable habits, and that's actually a good way of putting it. A habit is something that you do routinely, that you do often, that is part of your character, right? And so a virtue is a habit that you should have, such as doing your homework on time, being reliable, right? Showing up to class on time. I'm speaking from a professor's perspective here, right? From a student's perspective, getting an A, right?
Straight A's.
Straight A's, yeah.
Entering honor roll.
Right.
Doing interesting subjects. Saving up for a house.
Okay.
Let's see. Retirement.
Okay. Vices are
IRA.
9-year-old talking about a Roth IRA. Vices are undesirable habits. So, for example, if you are a kleptomaniac, right, and you steal things constantly, that's an undesirable habit. That's, something you do repeatedly, part of your character that is undesirable. And so the goal of virtue ethics is not exactly even focused on actions. It's focused on character, about personal character. So a big part of raising kids and being a professor is trying to cultivate virtue in the next generation, right? Because if there's one thing that the kids are bad at, it's raising other kids. That was something told to me by an acquaintance of mine who was a child psychologist, head of child psychology, I think, at Children's. He said the one thing the kids are bad at is raising other kids. You should not have kids raising other kids. You need parents to raise them and adults with wisdom to raise them. and to kind of inculcate into them proper values, right? Because they will not figure it out themselves most of the time if you just leave them to their own devices. So
this will be your homework assignment, just to let you know.
Ada, seriously,
Okay.
you're being a little out there today. Okay.
Okay. I'm just
So the goal of this is to become excellent at being human. So the goal of virtue ethics is to create excellence of character. That's kind of the thing. So you want to increase your virtues and decrease your vices over time. It's an ongoing process, right? Nobody's perfect, right? So so how do you know what is a virtue and a vice? Aristotle put it at what he called the golden mean. So, for example, we generally think of courage as a virtue, right? Being brave, being able to stand up to adversity, things like that. He believed that courage was not, the ultimate, 100% courage. He actually believed that courage is on a spectrum, right? And if you're completely devoid of courage,
that wasn't on purpose.
if you're completely devoid of courage, what would you say a person's character was like? If somebody lacked all courage, what kind of character would you say that they had? Cowardly, right? You'd say they're a coward. Now, what if... Good. Yeah, now what if somebody was so full of courage that they would, charge a tank, with their bare hands, right? I've known people like this, right? How would you describe people that had an excess of courage, let's say?
They have an eruption of courage.
Right? The kind of people that mighty, dumb, strong and brave, bold and courageous. Bold but dumb.
Yeah. Doesn't have they don't really have the knowledge to know that is wrong. That you shouldn't do that.
Fearless, bold but dumb. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and
bold
so
but dumb is
an excess of courage, we might say that they're reckless, right? They take unnecessary risks. Somebody dares them to jump off the roof of their house into a swimming pool. They're like, sure, I'll do that. They suffer from and they're blinded by courage. Yeah. So, sure, I'll jump off the roof of my house, into the pool, and then they miss and break their neck or something, right? So Aristotle puts courage right at the middle, right? So on one end you have cowardice, on the other end you have recklessness, and in the middle you have courage. So your goal isn't to become 9,000% couragey. The goal is to hit that golden middle where you're brave, you stand up to adversity, but you don't just take unnecessary risks and act dumb, as a number of you put it. Does that make sense?
Daddy, so for two frost giants, are dragons like bears to them?
Maybe. Yeah. Okay. So let's do another example. What about honesty? What do we call somebody who is not honest at all? Dishonest, a liar. Okay. Deceiving, distrusting, liar. Okay. So what do we call people that are too honest? That walk up to you on the street and be like, "Hey, you're going bald. Hey, you're fat. Hey, you're ugly." Honest Gabe. Rude, annoying.
Yeah, annoying.
Right. So Kant thought that honesty was an absolute. Right. You can't ever lie. Right. Even if somebody's asking the location of your brother to murder them. Overshare. Depends. If you are into virtue ethics, then you'd be like, no, that's too much honesty. Mildly infuriating. Somebody who can't keep their comments to themselves. Yeah. But a lot of those people, they do those actions where they're like, oh, Yeah, you look fat right now. Like they do that because they're like, well, look, honesty is a virtue, and so having a lot of virtue is a good thing, right? And Aristotle's like, no, you're going too far. You're going to the extreme. Don't do that. Aristotle is very much not about extremes. Um, Moderation was um, the watchword for Aristotle. Moderation. Moderation in all things. In fact, that was picked up in the Bible as well. The Bible says moderation in all things except for love of God, and it's a very pervasive um, ethic that I think has kind of woven its way alongside of all these other ones in our society, and that's why a lot of these things just kind of don't make sense to you, like why people act the way they do. And a lot of that is because they're operating under different ethical models, right? If somebody's a deontologist, even if they don't know the word, even if they've never like heard of Kant, if they've adopted that, because these threads have been woven through our society, right? And there's parallels of the golden mean in worldwide, right? It's not just it's not just Aristotle that believed in the golden mean, like what was his name, Mao Tzu and things like that in China. Uh, and there was an Indian philosopher that did something similar. That you know that these concepts are like just pervasive in human society. And Frank, yeah. Um, and so if you're talking to somebody who is a Kantian, even if they don't know it, even if they've never heard that word, and they just feel the desire to just tell you all of your shortcomings and everything that you should be doing, and they think they're being ethical, right? Because they are deontologists. They feel that it is their duty, their obligation, it is moral for them to be completely truthful in all things. And if you're a virtue ethicist, you're like, whoa, that's too much, dude. I don't need to know that you've got an outbreak of pimples on your back and that you've got a rash and like no, I don't want to know about all of that. Just keep it to yourself. That's too honest, right? That's too much, and it creates interpersonal conflict and likewise, the this difference between focusing on outcomes and focusing on duty or intention, right? Like that causes problems too. What if you're trying to help somebody and you hurt them, right? I've done it before. It's painful, but it happens. So is that an ethical action or an unethical action, right? It's horrible when it happens. It's absolutely horrible. It's devastating. You're trying to help somebody and you hurt them, but it happens. And so is it ethical or unethical? Depends on your outlook. Are you focused on the consequences of actions, or are you focused on the duty, your intention? You know, it's this is a big source of conflict in our society in general and within ourselves too. Because oftentimes we don't know the answer. Like, was that good that I did? Was it bad? You know, what if just a simple act of like giving money to you see a panhandler on the street, you give them money, they use it to buy heroin and die, right? Your intention was good, they died, you feel horrible about it, but at the same time you're like, well, I wanted them to get food, like there's that real source of just like that tearing feeling, from like I was trying to do good and I didn't, and you know and there's just this murkiness, right? So can you avoid that by just buying food and giving it to them? You could I've done that before, but just panhandlers on the street are asking for money, so yeah, so maybe you should say you just shouldn't give them money and just should only give food. Maybe that's a principle. So like yeah, let's talk about that. So from a virtue ethics standpoint, um, let's talk about charity, right? So helping the less fortunate, right? Or even yeah, let's just put it that way, helping the less fortunate. So what do you call somebody who does not help at all? The less fortunate. Yeah, sometimes you don't have time to give the food, or yeah, they're just like you just see a homeless guy, you're like, it's raining, you just feel bad for them, It's like here, like just go inside and get a burger or something, selfish, greedy, a person, right? I don't know. Like, what, like somebody who never helps other people, we typically, we typically don't have, good words for them, right? Somebody who never helps somebody else, right? What if you barely make enough food to support yourself? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And that's why I said less fortunate, right? So, in the case where you're the person who needs charity, most people would say, well, it's, you know, you don't have to give away your last, cheeseburger. You know what I mean? But like, let's say, you're middle class, you never help the poor, then a lot of people would call them uncharitable, selfish, greedy, things like that. An American. Ouch. Now, what about somebody who gives away everything they have, right? And so, in some ethical systems, this would be considered very noble and honorable, right? Give away all of your food, all of your money to the poor, right? Sell your house, sell your possessions. A philanthropist, right? Well, no, because like Bill Gates hasn't sold all of his stuff, right? He sells some of his stuff, some of his stock in Microsoft, and uses it to help, the less fortunate. Selfless, selfless, Mr. Beast, an American. It's funny. A lot of times, people would call somebody who like sells their house and gives away all their money foolish, right? Because if you can't eat yourself, then you can't help others unless you can help yourself first, right? And so if you sell your house and you sell your business, now you're relying on charity of others. You just kind of made the world worse. An altruist, yeah, it's true, and it's interesting that like nobody came up with a negative adjective for that, right? Because there is a very strong strand in especially American culture that it is considered noble and honorable to just give away all of your stuff, right? And so, to a virtue ethicist, though, like you can go too far in charity. You can go too far in giving away all of your stuff, And so, keep what you need at least to live, and maintain your household and feed your kids and things like that, right? So, yep, including this one. So, basically, virtue ethics, there's no like list, and this is what makes virtue ethics so confusing for people, is that there's not really a list of do's and don'ts, right? There's not like a do, give away your money to charity, don't, like it doesn't work that way, right? It's all about finding the golden mean between excess in one direction and excess in the other, right? Like let's see, love, right? If you never love somebody, you're going to go through life horribly. If you love too much, your life's probably going to be very chaotic, right? Being too generous, people will take advantage of you, right? Being too honest, being not honest, right? There's no like just easy checklist you can do when you're a virtue ethicist, right? You just have to think about the different virtues and reflect on them and see if you're meeting those virtues in yourself, and if you're not, then working on them. It's always an ongoing process of trying to make yourself a better person. So, wouldn't the golden line be subjective from person to person? Yeah, it's murky, right? It's murky. People could disagree on where the golden mean is, and there's probably a range of values in there. Like one person might give away 10% of their income, one might give away 5%, and they can disagree on that. But that's why most introverts stay inside and alone. Ambition. Like if you're completely ambitionless, you want nothing out of life.
What
Like
is ambition?
ambition means you want something, right? And usually something related to like career or status or achievements, right? And so people that are completely ambitionless, who want to grow not at all, turn out to be fairly boring people, right? Like I don't want to ever grow, improve, things like that. Just sit on the couch all day watching Netflix. It's a very kind of sad lifestyle, right? And then we've all met people that are too ambitious, that are willing to step on other people on the way up. They want to become president of the company, and so they lie and steal and backstab, trying to climb the ranks and things like that, and are horrible people. And so a virtue ethicist would say proper ambition, trying to always improve yourself, trying to always, learn something and develop a new skill.
But not so much. I want to be president of the whole world and stuff
Yeah, like Hitler or Napoleon or Genghis Khan. These people that are trying to conquer the entire world.
Or,
Alexander the Great,
okay,
it was kind of horrible. Kanye.
he kind of named his city after his horse, but he was so he was such a self-lover that he named a horse he named his horse Pretty Head, and then when his horse died, he named a city after that horse where he buried the horse. But it wasn't just the horse's name; it was his name too.
It was Alexandria Bucephalus. Yeah. Alexander the Great naming every city in the world after himself, right? And one was Alexandria Bucephalus, named after himself and his horse.
In India.
In India, yeah, where his horse died. Industriousness, working hard.
Oh yeah, really, Julius Caesar. I was thinking of that, I couldn't.
Julius Caesar. Yeah, there's some people that just want the entire world, and
I don't want that. I'm good.
Yeah, but at the same time, the opposite of just sitting on your couch watching Netflix all day is just kind of like.
Why?
It's not
just go into the mountains one day.
It's not a great life. You're not going to become an excellent human. You're not going to live the good life when
you have the option to.
You have that vice, right? So okay. So all virtues turn into vices when you have an excess or a deficiency. Okay. So learning how to rest and take it easy is important, but if you rest too much, then you become lazy. If you rest too little, then you stress and burn out, right? So
just like what happened to Mr. Crouch.
Mr. Crouch.
Harry Potter.
Okay. Any questions about virtue ethics? Do you see how it's kind of different from? See how it's kind of different from the other ones? It's not about actions so much as, an honest person behaves in an honest way. It's a habit of character. And at times, will you lie? Yeah, sure. There are no Jews in my attic, right?
What?
Oh, in France and the Netherlands, people would hide Jews in their attics and things like that to keep them safe from the Nazi, from the hunters. They would hunt for Jewish people hiding, and so a virtue ethicist would say, yeah, it's virtuous to lie to the Nazis who are trying to come and, why? Because the Nazis were horrible people that tried to, kill the Jews. So a virtue ethicist would say, there's no Jews in my attic. What are you talking about? Whereas a Kantian would be like, yeah, they're up there. Go get them. So, any questions about this? It is different. It is different. Let's see if I have any more slides on it. Right. So it's about personal development, personal growth. It stops you from going too far, like Kantian being truthful to murderers. It's not helpful if you don't have a great sense of morality. The virtues do conflict, and if you don't have a convenient guide, like with Kantian, you use the categorical imperative: is this right? Is this wrong? For utilitarian, more happiness, more pain. For the most people, there's oftentimes a fairly clear, guide when you use ethical hedonism, Kantian ethics, things like that. No questions on this? It's an interesting topic, isn't it? Though, it's a different way of thinking about ethics, right? Okay. So tomorrow, like I said, we're gonna have a guest speaker come in, and I want you to pick one of these 5. It doesn't have to be your own personal one. You're gonna pick one of these 5 and just think about it. Think about the housing crisis, Silicon Valley. There's tech workers living in RVs, in parking lots. They're making 6 digits and can't afford a house. And just think about the problem from that perspective and what we should do, if anything. Assuming you're a Bay Area resident, let's say, like my friend is, what should we do to help resolve the problem? And just pick one of these, and your next thing is just to write a little essay on it. Okay. So now we're going to talk about programming. So that was me shifting gears. So over here we can see a program that a student made last. You want to move the here? Let me move my face.
I lost the leaf.
There. So a student made this last year. Nope, you died again, girl. You died.
I didn't. How do I get it more lively?
Huh? You have to start over. So, we're going to talk about programming. And, working transmission, yeah. So we're going to talk about programming now. So this is Computer Science 1. This is not a full programming class. This is a introduction computer science class. And so what you see here, what my daughter's playing, is a game that one of you made, so to speak, last year. And
what the heck?
We are getting copyright striked by YouTube. No, stop, girl, stop. No.
What?
No. YouTube's gonna straight up copyright strike. Okay, so get him Nintendo. Yeah, you're gonna be demonetized. I'm not monetized. Okay, so this over here is called block programming, and block programming is probably the easiest.
The worst.
Easiest introduction into programming.
And the worst.
My daughter doesn't like it because it's
so bad.
It's so bad, but
Sort of. Maybe.
She actually would prefer doing like the text-based coding and stuff like that.
I'd rather do Unreal Engine.
Okay. So what you see over here, this is actually a complete program. This isn't the program that you normally, think of when you think about programming, right? Like if we come over here and look at like what my students in second semester computer science are doing, like it looks like something like this. Like, you've all seen pictures like this before. Like, if this and this, then if this and this and this, then else do this, else if this and not this, So this is what like real programming looks like. But we're not going to be starting you off doing real programming. We're going to start you off doing block programming. And block programming is like drag and drop. It's colorful.
Wait, is that wait?
That was Darth Vader.
Wait, so a cow's wearing a Darth Vader hat?
That was a cow wearing a Darth Vader hat. Yes.
What the heck?
You teach best what you most need to learn. It's a cow wearing a Darth Vader hat. Okay. So yeah, you get colors and stuff. Okay, so let's go through, I guess, this one here. This might actually be a fun assignment. Maybe it might be a little much to go over in 14 minutes. So we'll just kind of go over the basics today. Okay, so a Scratch program. Let me minimize my face. So over here you can see the program running. Down here you can see the different actors in the world. There's only one actor that moves around. It's Scratch. That's the name of the cat person thing here. There is a backdrop over here that holds the maze that they're on. And if you wanted to, you could have multiple mazes. You could have multiple characters walking around, things like that. Here, though, is the program. So the program itself is in this area. And what you do to program things is you drag things out from the palette on the left-hand side. The palette here contains all the different things you can do in Scratch. And there are quite a few. It's not super powerful, but there's a lot of things you can do. It's designed mostly for things like this, where you've got pictures walking around and talking to each other and stuff. And right here you can see there's a green flag, and here there is a red stop sign. So when you want to run the game, you click the green flag, and then the thing's now running. And you can see here that it says when green flag clicked. Here, let me. When I click the green flag, it moves the position of scratch here to negative 209, 140. So negative 209, 140. It sets the number of lives to 3 right here. So you got a variable named lives. And then it goes into an infinite loop here. So a forever loop. So it runs forever. And basically, over and over again, it checks to see if scratch is touching a black line, if touching color. Then it moves you back to the start, it costs you a life, and then it goes back into that infinite loop. If you're touching the orange color here, then it plays the copyright infringement Mario song, thank you whoever it was that did this. and it prints, yeah, you win, and then it, yeah. And then probably at this point you'd probably like change the backdrop to like the next level and reset and move on to the next maze or something like that. But they only did one level, which is fine. And then if your lives ever reaches below 1, then it resets back to here. It plays the losing sound, says game over, and probably it should like reset lives back to 3 or something like that and start the game over again. Now over here, these are things called event handlers. And so this is your main loop, okay? It doesn't handle, like, it just is constantly just checking to see if scratch is touching a black line, the orange circle, or if it's hit, negative lives. There's 0 less lives. These things, however, are how you move, okay? So when you press the right arrow key, it moves the X location by 10. See? When I press the up arrow, it moves up. When I move left, it goes down. When I press right, it goes right. And so that's how you, it's actually very simple. Like, if you wanted to do this in like C++, like I don't even know like how many lines of code this would be, to get the pictures rendering on the screen and the color and like this would actually be a fairly hard, like probably my second semester computer science students would not be able to write this program in C++. Probably not even my 4th semester. But in Scratch, for these kind of nice graphical visual things, you can actually do kind of cute, colorful games and things like that pretty easily. So let me show you, yeah. For those of you that have programmed before, you know what I'm talking about. This is actually not easy to do in C++. Now the trouble with Scratch is that it's this kind of block thing. So if you're trying to like redo your program, like you have to like kind of click and drag and snap things apart. It's like Legos. Do you guys see that? Like you can kind of click things together. But like let's say I wanted to like add a sound or something in here, then I need to go to sounds, and so when we start the game, I'm going to drag that out and I'm going to click it in here, and I'm going to record a new sound. What should it say? What do you guys think when it starts the game? What do you think? What should it say? Bruh. Bruh. Like that? Game over. Game over. Game over. Game over. See how easy this is? Just record a new sound effect, and we're going to call this one Game Over Kearney. And then we will take out the Nintendo one. And so watch, it's kind of annoying, right? Like I have to, well, I could just change this here, right? I can change this to Game Over Kearney. And so if I play this game, lost a life, lost a life, lost a life. Game over. Now there's my voice in it. Game over. Oh. Game over. Ah, it's still in an infinite loop. Game over. So, yeah, like I said, it should probably set the number of lives back up to 3. So let's come over here, variables, set lives to 3. There, and you can play the game again. Oh yeah. So when we start the game now, it plays the evil laugh. I guess that's what I was gonna do. But now if I die,
Game over.
then it resets the lives to 3. Yeah, and it stops that infinite loop. So don't forget to give yourself voice acting credits. I think that was a pretty good game over. What do you guys think? I thought that was a pretty solid. Did a program last semester was based on Valorant voice lines. It's funny. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. So, so let's go ahead and save. You don't need to save to your computer. You can if you want, I guess, if you want to make a backup. But usually you don't. You don't save these things to your computer. It's just it's up here. You can if you want to back it up, I guess. But these things just sort of save automatically. Let's see, stamp page. Let's see here. File, tutorials. Let's see, project page. Profile. Leave page. Let's see this one. So this is what it looks like. This is a game that I made last semester. So basically, the jellyfish move around.
Win.
There you go. You win. So use the arrow keys to move the octopus around, and then the laser follows the mouse. So every couple seconds, it chases after the mouse.
Win.
There. So, yeah, we basically don't have time to kind of really get into it, into how to make this today. But I just kind of wanted to show you a little preview, I guess, of what we're going to be doing. Depending on when my friend finishes his talk, we might do more on Wednesday. If not, then I'll really get into this and go through the different options on Monday, and then give you your first homework assignment in programming. Like I said, we're going to be doing social issues in computer science on Wednesday. You're going to write an essay. I don't know if I want to do a whole discussion on it. I think mostly I just want you to no peer reviews. I think I just want you to write just to demonstrate you understand the ethical theories. Okay. So this program here, we got 5 minutes left. I'll just go through it. So when you start play, it moves the octopus to the starting location. It shows the octopus. If you die, it hides the octopus. It plays game over, and it stops the simulation. So that's something the other person could have done. They didn't do. So after they died, instead of resetting back to full lives and things like that, they could have just stopped the game, just end the game. So if the octopus here dies,
Game over.
you dead. There you go. You like my artwork? And I could probably turn off the laser too. Okay. So yeah, let me just run through this. And like I said, I'll go through the actual scratch on Monday of next week. We don't have class on Friday, right? It's Lincoln's birthday on Friday. Is that right? Or do we have class on Friday? It's kind of frustrating that the school districts, that's why Ada's out today. She's out today for Lincoln's birthday. Nobody ever gets together, between Fresno Unified and Clovis Unified and Fresno State and Community College District. Just be like, all right, what days do we want off so that everybody gets off the same day? Class Friday, but not Monday? Dang. Okay. All right, there will not be a live recording on Friday then, because I'm going to be going out of town, and so what I'll do for Friday is just make a recording and put it up. So there won't be a live recording on Friday. let's see. In that case, next Monday, when I said we do the Scratch lecture, I'll do that for Friday instead. So I'll put up a pre-recorded lecture for Friday. You still have to just watch it, comment during the time window between Friday and Monday, and then that should be fine. Okay. Class Friday, not Monday. Okay. All right. So then that's basically it for today. Yeah, same thing here. When you hit the arrow keys, you move around. When you hit space, it creates a clone of laser. That's cool. So I can make more lasers. Ah, death.
You win.
Look at that. Okay, that's amazing. Look. You hit space, it makes multiple lasers. Look at
You
that.
win.
Is that cool?
What are you doing?
It's lasers versus it's jellyfish versus octopus. Get him. Get him.
You win.
Yeah. Okay. So the backdrop to castle, show variable lives. So in an infinite loop, the octopus always points towards the mouse pointer. You see that? So the octopus is always pointing towards the mouse pointer. If it touches an enemy, it loses a life. If it ever drops the lives below 0, then it switches to the game over backdrop that I made with my incredible art skills. And yeah, so it's just a fun little game. It took probably, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes to put together. And it kind of teaches you the basics of programming, you know. And so even if you've done programming before, if you've done a lot of C++, like I said, this is not easy to do in C++. So have some fun with it. Once you get your first programming assignment, impress me with, if you've taken 4 semesters of computer science, I want to see, more, out of you. It shouldn't take too much time, but, impress me. Okay? So that is it for today. Like I said, don't worry about the Scratch thing for now. On Friday, there will be a pre-recorded lecture, and the pre-recorded lecture will kind of go over the basics of Scratch from top to bottom, and you'll get your first programming assignment then. Okay. So I will see you on Wednesday. Be prepared to learn about the social issues of computer science as it relates to housing. Okay. All right. See you all.